Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Here we talk about intentional living, whether that means moving abroad, redesigning your life, or making choices today that shape the future you're building. And recently, I released a book that focused on estate planning and legacy, not just in terms of documents or assets, but in, thank you, April, in how we live, the values we pass on, and the example we set for the future and the people who come after us. And today's conversation fits beautifully into that theme. And I'm joined by the extraordinary April Muhammad, a mother of eight whose journey to graduating law school recently, later in life, is nothing short of extraordinary. Her story isn't just about earning a degree, it's about perseverance, faith, purpose, the kind of legacy that's built through lived experience. We'll be talking about what it means to pursue a calling while carrying real responsibilities and how legacy evolves through hardship and how our choices, especially the difficult ones, can change the narrative for our families and communities. So, whether you're in the middle of a life transition, feeling pulled between obligation and dreams, or thinking more deeply about the future you're creating, I think you'll find a lot of wisdom in this conversation with April. And April, thank you so much for being here. April is in the middle of studying for the bar exam, so her time is precious. So I'm so grateful that she took a Sunday to speak with me. And without
Thank
further
you.
ado, April.
Thank you so much for having me. I am excited to converse with you. What I've done, I don't think much of, but apparently those around me who see it, it excites them. And so I am happy to discuss that. If there's anything that I can offer of benefit to anyone, I'm excited to take that time and speak with them. So I do thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you, April. You are remarkable. If you don't know it now, maybe you're still in the grind of law school, but you'll look back and perhaps be able to realize, like, I did that. I'm pretty extraordinary to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
So, April, your story has inspired so many people. How would you describe this chapter of your life right now?
This chapter of my life right now, I feel that it's just beginning. I had an idea in my mind about what I wanted to do with my life, and that was to be an attorney. How that would look exactly, I didn't know. Right now, I've got a good idea, but still, there are opportunities around every corner. So if I'll end where I am now, I seriously doubt it. So
Mhm.
now I feel a lot of excitement. I feel a lot of possibility. I
Mhm.
feel a lot of blessings, and I'm just excited to be in this space and time.
Excellent. So, those who don't know, please explain your journey to this point where you're studying for the bar.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Clarksdale, Mississippi. We lived on a plantation until I was about five, until I was in first grade. Now, the plantation wasn't a working plantation, but I can remember there being a big house. And shortly after I was born, I'd say about three, that house came down. But all around me, there was farmland. So, in speaking with my father and my grandmother, I learned that what I was seeing was a plantation in which they were sharecropping. Now, by the time I came along, they weren't sharecropping anymore. But I remember my great grandmother, she lived until I was six. She was born a slave. She had come from Louisiana and she settled in Clarksdale, Mississippi. My grandmother, I did say my great grandmother before was born a slave. Yes, my grandmother, she was a sharecropper. She headed the household, and my dad also sharecropped too. So I was speaking with my dad when I got older about that situation, and I asked him, what was it like? He said when he was a child, everybody had to work on the plantation. They had to work in the fields. He said if you were old enough to hold a hoe, you were chopping cotton. He said if you were not old enough to chop cotton, then you were getting water for those who were working. And so in Clarksdale, there's little opportunity. It was the South. And traditionally, what people think of when they think about the South, the poverty, the the things that our people go without, the racism, All of that is true. I can remember having a segregated prom, and I'm not that old, but we
Right.
had a prom for the white students and a prom for the black students, and that was just normal everyday life. But I can remember just being in the midst of poverty and thinking that life has got to get better than this. And I just remember feeling inspired to say that I wanted to be an attorney. Now, where that
Mhm.
came from, I don't know. I'm assuming God put it in me because from that moment as a young girl walking with my sister and expressing that to her, to now as a 54-year-old woman who has actually achieved that dream never left me. There were interruptions in it because there were other events in life that I had to attend to. But throughout my life, I still carried that dream.
So, when I first read about your journey, what stood out to me, it wasn't just law school, it was purpose. So, when do you remember that first calling to that path? Do you remember that moment?
Mm, yes, I would say my sister and I were walking, I think, to my aunt's house in
Mhm.
Clarksdale. By that time, we had moved to the city, which was Clarksdale from the country where we lived when I was younger, which was called Big Creek. But we were walking, I would say I had to be maybe 10, maybe 11, somewhere around that.
So, what do you think that were there experiences that shaped that calling? Was it witnessing segregation? Was it witnessing injustice?
I remember so well us living in poverty, everyone uh, that we knew lived in poverty. That may not be the case, but as a child, that's what I perceived.
Mm.
We were relegated to one particular part of town. In the city, we had a railroad track that ran through the town, and literally, white citizens would be on one side, black citizens would be on the other side, and the quality of life on those sides was markedly different. You could see better upkeep, you could see more resources being put in that part of town where the white citizens lived.
Mhm.
On our side, books were passed down over and over again from some of the white schools. And so there
Mhm.
was just this feeling for me of, I would say, decay. I didn't feel like resources were given to us that were needed. And I felt like there had to be a better life than what we were living. And
Mm.
for me, I thought law would be the way to achieve that.
I relate to that. I relate to that.
Did I answer your
So,
question?
yeah, you did, because it's sort of like you saw injustice. You may not necessarily, because as a small child, you saw injustice, you saw inequity, and in a way that fostered this yearning for to rectify it,
Yes.
perhaps, and and to go into a career path that would provide stability and access.
I agree. I can remember us living hand to mouth. My mother was a wonderful mom. She would sew our clothes for us. My dad was a hardworking dad. He worked all the time, but it still was a hand to mouth existence. It was difficult. I can remember the lights being turned off. I can remember sometimes us not having food. And I can also remember a period in my life where my dad became addicted to drugs. So
Mm,
life got even harder at
mhm.
that point. Through the grace of God, I made it past that.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think sometimes with to go into certain professions that they're saying, oh, you don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to be an engineer. But there's something about those professions that give you stability, which is why parents want their children to go into those paths so they
Mhm,
have access.
I
You know,
agree.
it may not be as glamorous as other professions, but the stability that it can give you, and then you have resources to do your hobbies. That's
I
not talked
think
about often. So many people, especially women, feel pressure to follow a certain timeline. What was it like choosing law school later on in life while raising a family?
so. I believe that my greatest accomplishment is raising the children. So I've got 8 children. They're not babies anymore, but I call them my babies. And I can remember once having one of them tell me, because I didn't agree with her, she was like, "I'm gonna put you in an old folks home when you get old." I said, "Oh, honey, I'm not worried about that at all. That's why I had so many other ones. Somebody is gonna take care of me." But for me, having the children and rearing them was so important, and I felt so gratified in seeing a child go from a baby to somebody who is teaching me something, to somebody who is watching out for me. They love me, they support me, they give me so much love, so much joy.
Mhm.
So I think that is my greatest accomplishment in law school, follow suit, because I, strive hard to be a decent mom, a caring mom, and a loving mom. They give me the support I need now. I could not have done this. I couldn't have. Someone else could have. I couldn't have raised so many children while in law school. But now they're older, they're able to take care of themselves, and they also are able to take care of me. So the time was right. One of the attributes that Allah has is the attribute of severe, which means patiently persevering.
Mhm.
So I'm 54. That is pretty old, especially to have had a dream that never left, that stuck with you. But
Mhm.
everything I did, I felt was a step towards reaching that goal. And so every step was for me a win. And I viewed law school the same way. To be an attorney, there are three parts to it. You got to get accepted to law school. You got to pass law school. You've also got to take the MPRE, and you got to pass the bar. So
Mhm.
every time I was able to do one of those things, I could put a check mark by it and know that I was a step closer to my dream. And because I was a step closer to reaching my dream, I was the closest I'd ever been to reaching my dream.
Right.
And so just continuing to go, continuing to move forward made all the difference for me. And just looking at it as like small wins was so helpful.
So you even think motherhood, the foundation of motherhood prepared you and helped you be a better student?
I believe it did. There are things that happened in law school that I didn't engage in
Right.
because I was more mature. And so
Mhm.
I was able to avoid some of the pitfalls that younger students were not. I
Yeah.
was able to communicate with younger students, older students, professors. I was able to understand the characteristics of different people and
Mhm.
take them for what they were, as opposed to being disgruntled because someone didn't view something the way I viewed it. Something about motherhood, when you have 8 children, you have 8 different personalities. They're
Mhm.
all different. I don't have any 2 children that are just alike. They
Mhm.
may have similar qualities, but they all have different sensibilities, different things that upset them, different things that make them feel heard. And
Mhm.
so I had to navigate 8 different children, and that prepared me to navigate however many different professors, however many different judges. It was what I needed. It was foundational to help me be able to be the April Muhammad you see today.
Yeah, that's the gag on law school that the older students, because I went back too. I went back at 30 and I was working full time. You don't have time for
Wow.
nonsense. So you do better
Yeah,
than the younger students who tend to be more distracted. I was working and I was a night student,
yeah.
so I had no time to waste
Yes.
with any shenanigans. Like
That
I had to get on the train at 10:30 at night. I was not taking any
yeah,
hostages.
that's right.
Right.
You
And
gotta handle business and move on.
yeah, 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 yeah. So that's the gag. So if there's any women who are scared or figuring out how to manage motherhood and going to law school, it is absolutely doable because you have better boundaries too. That's
That's
also
right.
when you're a mother and you have other responsibilities, you have better boundaries. You're more efficient with your time because you have
That's right.
mouths to feed, you have a husband to take care of, you have a
That's
household to
right.
run. So there's no loose ends.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. No time for that.
No
And if
time.
you are wise and you use some wit, you can actually get those children and the husband to help you. So you can have some support.
Yeah, so, my mom told me that you had, like, a whole setup with your children that were helping you. Can you talk about that?
So I have a setup now for the bar. When I was going to law school, the children would pretty much pitch in however they needed to pitch in
Mhm.
to help. So if it was cleaning, if it was cooking, whatever it might have been, they were down for it. I
Yeah.
can remember at one point really being overwhelmed because it's not an experience for the faint of heart. It is difficult. It's a journey. But I can remember a period where my children thought that the house had just slacked. I can remember one of my children saying, "Mama, we used to be able to eat off the floor. Now you've got this stuff in the corner." And I'm thinking,
How
I'm
dare
in a
you?
race right now. I'll deal with that later.
How
So
dare
they
you?
just came in and they just cleaned it right up.
Mhm.
But I think when you have loved those around you and you have tried to be good to
Mhm.
those around you, and I teach my children and I try to exhibit this by being good and decent and kind to all that I come across. But
Mhm.
when you have done that, people are endeared to you. My children were endeared to me. My husband is endeared to me, and this is my second husband.
Mhm.
He's very supportive and helpful, and they go the extra mile to help me because they love me, and
Mhm.
also I think they're proud of me. And, it's not too bad to be able to say, "My mama did this." It's pretty impressive for them.
Not at all. Yeah, but you poured in a certain type of love and compassion that you modeled compassion for them, so then they can show compassion to you because I'm not a mother yet, but I see sometimes the disconnect where parents tend to coddle, do not show or teach compassion and empathy for others, that they think
Yeah,
the child think that the child is the center of the universe and that there's not a world going on outside of them. And I think that could be
that's right.
very, very difficult to untrain,
Yes,
that you can
yes,
love your child as well as teach them there's a world going on around them where other
that's
people
right.
have needs as well.
That's right. I was thinking about your show and how the focus is on legacy, and I was thinking, well, when people think of legacy, they normally think about an empire or wealth that's passed from generation to generation. We don't have that, but the wealth that we do have is teaching our heirs to be responsible, to
Mhm,
be kind, to be decent, to
mhm,
treat others the way they want to be treated, to be
mhm,
hardworking, to be
mhm.
honest, to be forthright, and to be so many
Consider
things of good that the world is suffering because we don't have those things around us.
yeah, because
So that would be the legacy I've given my children. And
mhm.
now because I follow my dreams, I can add on and increase that when we talk about, economically.
Oh, absolutely.
My
Yeah.
parents gave that legacy to me. I passed that legacy on to them.
Mhm,
I can remember before I used to be so embarrassed to be from Mississippi 'cause, the world they may think poor, backward country, that type of thing.
mhm,
But I was embarrassed until I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, say that he loves people from Mississippi because they are so humble. And I was
mm.
like, "Yeah, we are humble." And
I
so
love
that
that.
made me be alright with it. But so the legacy is not one of monetary value as of yet, although we're
Mhm,
getting there, but the
mhm.
legacy is still stronger, I think, in better than money.
Yeah, absolutely, and the money will come, but the thing with legacy, I think, is that a person if you want your children to be good stewards of whatever you hand down to them, you have to teach them about the intangible assets that you just mentioned, compassion, empathy, consideration for others, and love. Otherwise, there's a tendency to squander wealth
Yeah.
because if we look at aristocratic families that hand down generational wealth, they are taught this is not about you. This is about the family. This is about the institution
Mhm.
of the family. We
Mhm.
have not begun to understand it because many of us are like for my family, first generation Americans, or with your fam, two generations away from slavery, two generations or
Mhm.
three generations away from slavery.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you were once your ancestors were once property and now you're owning property. So the epigenetics have not caught up to
That's right.
holding well, but the value system has to be embedded in that. This is not about you and your proclivities and you spending off all the money because this has
That's
to
right.
be handed down to the children. And that's
That's
a necessary conversation that has to be had. That's what I speak about a lot in my book is like the spiritual elements of handing down wealth. You don't just give a 4-year-old your iPhone. They'll be calling, ordering stuff from Amazon, doing all sorts of shenanigans.
Or
You
dropping it in the sink.
exactly, drawing on it, doing all sorts of things.
Yeah,
You have to prepare them, and some children are not ready to take on ownership of tangible assets because they were never
yeah,
taught how to take care of this home that they're inherited. It's not
that's
a
right,
given just because a child comes from your lineage that they're gonna be good caretakers. You have
that's
to
right,
teach them what it is to be responsible and accountable, and that it's not just about you and spending off all the money.
that's right.
And then the money will come easily because you have what I say is like you have the container to receive it, to hold it, you
That's
know?
beautiful.
I'm fascinating with the lottery stories. Those never get lost on me because people who win the lottery, 95, I believe, wish they've never won the lottery. And within 5 years, they've spent off all the money and destroyed their lives.
What do you think is the reason? What's the story behind that?
Well, they weren't able to calibrate to that type of
Yeah,
money in the sense spiritual, okay, how can I be accountable to this blessing or accountable for this blessing? And it
that's
has to do with the values you were talking about. They live in La Vida Loca. They get the
yeah,
money, they start spending. They're like, how can I be responsible with this money? That's not
listen.
a message that is internalized or passed on. And they
Wow,
end up, even if they didn't have a drug problem before, somehow they develop one.
wow,
They all sorts of people start to become pariahs.
yeah,
The sharks start circling around. It's fascinating. It's so
wow,
fascinating. What in my experience is interesting is I have experience with people who inherit wealth later on in life, like
mm,
millions of dollars. It's fascinating in their 70s
mm,
and 80s. And you know what they do? They help their children. They pay off the children's house. They buy. It's so fascinating to see what they do because they have wisdom
that's
at
right,
that point.
that's right.
They want to do something meaningful. So that's also an interesting contrast where someone wins the money, they didn't earn it, they didn't put sweat equity into it, whereas someone who inherits it later on in life, who knows what it is to work for 50, 60 years and sacrifice and live handsome, they're not
Yes,
it's so
yes.
different.
That's a compelling point you make. I can remember, wow, when I turned about 40, I
Mhm.
used to be so bothered when it was time for another birthday. I was like, "Oh my god, getting older just seems so unappealing," and I thought about all the negative things about aging, and I talked to my dad about it. He said, "I never wanna hear you say that again." He
Right.
said, "You are growing older, that's a blessing." Said,
Mhm.
"You're gaining wisdom, you're gaining experience in life, so you gotta stop looking at that as a negative."
Right.
And so I agree. And so now I can see how that is so, particularly because the world is so much bigger than April.
Oh, of course, yeah.
There's so much need. There is much, uh, hmm, there's just so much going on around us that if we focus on ourselves, if we look inward, and only look inward and we stay there, we're
Mhm,
missing what's happening around us. And so wisdom, experiences that may weigh on us
mhm.
actually prepare us for the next experience that's coming our way. It
Right.
helps us navigate that next experience. It helps us be able to rise above. And so, actually, growing older, it is a blessing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what advice would you give someone who feels pulled between obligation and dream?
I rest with what I'm taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And he taught us that the home is our base, it's not necessarily our place.
Mhm,
So let me rephrase that. The woman's home is her base and not necessarily her place. But he did remind us that when we have children, they are our first priority.
mhm,
So I took that to heart and I didn't think about it. I knew that school was something that I wanted to do, but really, it's super difficult to go to school and have, you know, a bunch of children with you. But sometimes I would do that. When I started going to college, I can remember I got my undergraduate at the University of Memphis.
mhm, mhm,
And I can remember being in a class that was, we were having some type of seminar and it was a night showing. And so I didn't have anybody to watch my 2 girls. I had 2 daughters at that time. So I had to bring them to the seminar with me, and oh my god, it was terrible. It was horrendous.
Really?
It was because I had one that I had to feed snacks to keep her quiet, and I
Uh-huh.
needed the other one to actually feed the snacks so I could pay attention to the seminar. And so it was not that great.
Oh my
But
goodness.
as a
How
mom,
old were they?
let's see, Mary might have been 4,
Hmm.
and Noelle could have been 8, something like that, around 4 and 8. But I took them with me. I didn't have to take them to school often. I was able to work things out, but now, no, it's easier now than it's ever been to actually get a degree and have children
Mhm.
because most schools have an online program. So
Right.
what you're doing at home while you're taking care of the babies or taking care of other responsibilities, you can just carve out a few minutes a day to finish your work online. There's something to be said about being patient for
Mhm.
something that is important, something that is worthy, something that you need so that you can actually obtain it. Now, if it's something that's not really worth having in your heart and in
Mhm.
your mind 40 years, then by all means, don't do it. But if
Right.
there is a desire that you have, if there is a purpose and you know what that is, and it just makes you light up when you think about it, it's worth pursuing. And
Right.
you may not be able to get it overnight. This world wasn't created overnight. Everything we see in nature, it took time.
Right.
It took time to build even where you are right now. It took time for you to get from a child to an adult. So it takes time to get the things you want. We live in um, a world where everybody wants things instantaneously,
Mhm.
and that is not always good and it's not always possible. So
Mhm.
if we can focus on the small wins that we get and we can hold those in our hearts and just hold on to those to move to the next win, then we can make it. And before we know it, we look back and we're like, whoa, I crossed the river and didn't even realize it. And
Right.
that's how I'm feeling now. I don't swim, I can float, but I feel like I've crossed the river. So, and this is how I did it.
You crossed the English Channel.
I did. Yay.
Yeah, that's so important to sometimes I had someone once tell me, "Do not take a snapshot of your life and to make that indicative of your entire life. Sometimes you're going to be
Mhm.
going through experiences that make you miserable,
Yeah.
but this too shall pass." My mother always
Yes.
says that, "This too shall pass," whether it's
That's
good or
right.
it's bad. Do not zero in and think it's going to be like this forever.
That's right.
And law school is miserable. My god, it's the most
It's
miserable.
so hard.
It's so and then the bar exam to boot, but it passed, and I remember being like, "Oh my this is the last summer I'm doing this. Last summer, I can't afford to fail this because I'm not
That's
paying $3,000." I couldn't afford it, and,
right.
the for the bar exam, I was like, "I'm passing this no matter what I
That's
do."
right. And that's how I'm feeling now, and it's interesting that you, mentioned your mother's wisdom. My mama gave me wisdom too, and she
Mhm,
said, "April Davis," I can't remember what it was I was complaining to her about, but she said, "April Davis, everybody can do something for a little while." And I
mhm.
was like, "You're right, mama." And that's helped me go through, experience after experience that
Yeah,
felt difficult and arduous and, like, I couldn't make it through, just
yeah.
knowing I have to hold on for a little while.
Exactly, and you just grim and bear it, you do the bare mi what from moment to moment, what do I have to do today? And you just do
That's
that,
right.
and you cut out all the loose ends and the extra fat, and you're like, "I'm just doing this." And
That's right.
I was even so I used to cross off the days. I don't like a little psychopath. I don't even know if that was good for me. I would be like I'm like 48 days, and I would skip weekends so it could be
That's
the
right. That's
time.
right. I started counting towards the end, so I understand what you're saying.
All the, like, mental tricks I would do to go
Yeah,
through these, like, miserable experiences. It's not just law school because life is happening too, you
that's
know what I
right.
mean? Like, my mother was ill at the time. I was managing so I was and then I remember this is what I thought I was going through a difficult time because my mother was ill, I had to move, something with my roommate. It was just life happening, and law school was just, like that was on autopilot, and then I
Yeah.
remember seeing a sign where a student of the month or something, and this fellow student's mother was dying of brain cancer. And
Mm,
she said law school was an escape in the sense that she didn't have to think about her mother while she was studying. And I was like,
right.
I don't have any problems compared to her.
Wow.
And that was like, oof, here I am complaining.
Yeah.
and this woman is probably gonna bury her mother in the next few weeks.
Oh, that is so sad.
And
Prayed the entirety of time. For 3.5 years, I would pray, "Oh, please let me not get in an accident driving," because I drive an hour every day to get to
ah,
school, then an hour home. And so it was just terrifying. Every day I was praying, "Please let me make it to school with no
yeah.
issues." I'm praying that I can make it home safe, secure, and unmolested. Please don't let me get sick. Oh, Allah,
Oh,
please.
yeah.
And right before law school, though, I went through it.
Mm,
My mother passed away in January, and my husband passed away in July.
sorry.
No, it was in June. And so that was so, so, so difficult.
Mhm.
But I was able to continue on. Then while in law school, my dad passed away. And I can remember talking to him. I was like, "Daddy, just can you hold on? Please hold on for a few years, and then I had his lawyer money. I'll take care of you, Daddy." It's like, uh, he
Oh,
laughed about it, but
see,
unfortunately, he didn't make it through.
I'm
And
sorry.
so for me, that was a reminder that life must continue. I
Mhm.
know that my mom would be so proud to know what I've done. My dad, he was proud
Course.
of me, and he would be even prouder now knowing that I've completed it.
Right,
So, unfortunately, we have difficulties. There's no way to avoid it, no way to get around it. We're going to have trials, but we have to not allow those trials to stop us.
right,
And if they stop us, we have to do it for just a short time
right.
to grieve a little and then to keep going. But that's life.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always say the trials, even though when you're going through it, they're building your capacity to receive more. So, as much as suffering that you experience, like you've receive, if not more, blessings on the other side of it. Do
Yes. Oh, yes, that is so true. I was thinking about that the other day, and I can remember when my husband passed, my mom passed, it was difficult for me to get up some days. And, I would sleep a lot, cry a lot. And I was sleeping because in my dreams, I felt that Allah was giving me time with my husband who passed away because, dreams, they feel so real. So it's like I would be able to be with him in my dream. But one of my children said, you know, Mama, Daddy taught us about life and death, but now I'm worried about you. And when a child brought that to my attention, I was like, oh my God,
Mhm.
I couldn't see myself. And I thought, wow, it must be bad. So I had to get up and get some help to
Mm,
keep going. But just overcoming that and just to keep pushing, I thought that in the end, I would end up with a degree. It turns out that
right.
I have gained a degree, I have gained a prestigious clerkship, I
Mhm,
have gained notoriety, I have gained the ear of the human family because they want to hear my story. It
mhm,
makes them happy, it resonates with some, it inspires others. So
mhm.
that has been a blessing so much more than I thought I could ever have.
Right, right. You have now your soul, your spirit could receive so much more
Yeah.
because of all of the trials and tribulations, right?
Yes.
And that's what's so remarkable when we're going through difficult times. Like we don't know that like God is keeping score. I
That's
do
right.
believe that. And
That's
sometimes you got to invoice him saying, I'm going through it. Like, take the wheel. I'm invoicing you.
Boy, you are so right because I remember when my husband, he was a heart transplant patient. 6
Mm,
months after we married, we were rushing him to the hospital, and I had to do open heart surgery. He had I think it was an 11 centimeter aneurysm on his aortic valve. They took it off and they thought that he wouldn't survive, but he did. But the heart
mhm.
wasn't doing well, so they had to give him another heart. And so I don't know where I was going with the story.
About the capacity building when we go through trials and tribulations, that God is keeping score.
God is keeping score, and that He is. And
Mhm.
so going through that difficult time and just being able to make it another 15 years with him because when he
Wow.
finally got the heart, he was able to live another 15 years. So
Wow.
God is like the parent, the best parent that you ever had that wants to shower you with everything of good that you should have, every reward that you are worthy of. God is like so in love with us when we submit and we
Mhm,
try to
mhm.
please him. He is so in love with us that he'll give us whatever we need, even when it's things that we don't know we need. And
Mhm.
so just holding on and having faith and relying on him and doing the things that we know are right
Right.
to the best of our ability, that gives us high marks from him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he guides us every single step. I know this that if I am not listening to God's instructions, it would literally wake me up in the middle of the night. I've had
Mm.
moments of like, I cannot sleep.
And we shouldn't be able to sleep, should we?
No, we should not be.
That is the supreme parent telling you you're not doing something that you should have done that I told you to do. Get up
If
out
I'm
of
in
that bed and
if
wash
I'm
those
in my
dishes.
ego, right? If I'm in my ego thinking, "Oh, I know it's instead of his
Yeah.
instructions," like that was a lot with my book. Like I could not sleep until it was done.
Wow.
And then now
Wow.
that it's done, can I tell you the rest that I've received the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Wow.
I'm rest in such a rested state, like, I don't it's been years since I've been able to sleep, like, my
Wow.
bed is the most comfortable it's ever been.
So Imma tell you, you said you don't have any children, but that's what it's like being pregnant. To be able to lay down your burden. So you carrying this burden that's been with you for however long it has been. And
Mhm,
when that time comes for it to come to birth and you separate that baby from the mother or the baby is born
mhm,
and you're able to then sit back and look at the fruits of your labor, to look at your baby
mhm.
and actually have gratitude and peace in your heart, that's some good sleep. That is a win.
I love that. My mom says that. She says that. She's like her greatest accomplishment with her children. She
That's
says
right.
she says like you that she poured the best that she had into my brother and I.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes I joke with her, "My mom, you're so lucky you have me." And she says, "What? You think I didn't give you my best?
That's right.
I expect nothing less." She says, "I
Right.
stared at you for a year when you were an infant." Yeah, and she jokes, and
That's
I
right.
see her return on investment. She's received it. So, if you could leave one message for families thinking about the future, about purpose, preparation, and legacy, what would it be?
I would say love each other. And I'm not talking about the type of touchy feely love, although that's important too. I'm talking about hearing each other, accepting each other, and allowing each other to be who it is that they are and what they have been created to be. Because
Mhm,
we don't know how uh, how their characteristics would develop in a way that could add to the legacy, that can help build familial wealth. And I'm not just talking about money, but I'm talking about that can build us as people. As I said before, I've learned some of the greatest lessons in my life from my children. Sometimes it's been really difficult. I have not been the best mom that I can be, but I tried hard and I did the best I could with what I had.
mhm,
But when we express that type of care for those around us, for our babies, for our aunts, for our uncles, whoever it is that's in our sphere, when we do that, then we are inviting a
mhm,
payout that's going to be good for the family. It's going to be good for the community. And if we keep that going, it'll be good for the world.
mhm,
So, I employ everybody that when there are disagreements, just to not say, "Oh, I'm not gonna talk to you for 20 years because you make me sick. I don't
right.
like you." No, let's work that out as a family. We don't have to agree on everything. Let's just agree that we don't agree with that. And if we focus on what unites us more than what divides us, then we can actually grow and improve as a family, as a community, and our world will be better.
Absolutely. So, how do you think your graduation changes the narrative for your children and for the broader community?
So it's one thing to get inspiring words from somebody who hasn't done something. It's another thing to get inspiring words from someone who's actually withstood a battle and made it through. And so I think that when my children see me, they feel like, oh, mama did that. I can do it too. I
Mhm,
certainly look at others who have accomplished great things, and I think I'm just like them. There's
mm,
not a difference between me and them. The only difference is They put their nose to the ground and they did it. Well,
Mhm,
I can do it too. And so I feel like I stand as a living example to those who want to do something that's not done every day because, first off, it's difficult even being accepted into law school and other professional programs because schools turn away far more applicants than they accept.
mhm,
It's difficult to do something that is arduous and something that is taxing for years. But when you have done those things and it's something that resonates with you, you find that it was worth it. Every minute I wouldn't trade thing. And I tell you, I was committed to just taking whatever came my way and overcoming obstacles.
mhm,
And if we think deeply about what it is that we need to accomplish in life, why we're here, if we spend some time with ourselves, most times that can be revealed to us. If we just think back about what it is that was in my heart, what it is that I always found joy in, that's how we can tell why we're here. And all
mhm.
we have to do is actually go through the difficulty to get to the prize. So I would implore everybody to do that.
Right.
Don't give up.
Absolutely. And your children stand on your shoulders,
Yes.
or,
Yes.
and you think
Absolutely
about
right.
grandmother, your mother, your grandmother, and your great grandmother, like the lineage of great woman.
Yeah.
Think, I think about my grandmother who immigrated to the US, and I said, I stand on her shoulders, and I'm in a world where there's so many more opportunities than she had. How dare I complain?
Right. Right. That is so true.
She had to leave school at eighth grade to start working. You know what I mean? So how dare I
Mhm.
complain about any obstacles that I experience?
Wow. That is so true. And that's our story. It's a story for many families, Black families here in America, many poor families. But, my dad didn't graduate high school. My mama didn't graduate grade school.
Mhm.
And they made a better life for us with what they had.
Right.
And
Yeah.
by God's permission, I'm able to make a better life for my children than what I had. And that should be the goal, to make
Right.
life better for those who are coming behind us.
Right. Right. So how do you want your work, your life to be remembered by the people closest to you?
I want them to remember that mama made it through something that was exceedingly difficult, exceedingly painful to realize a triumph and to gain a glory. The far has been filled with heartbreak, but in the heartbreak there has been joy. The
Mhm.
Quran says it this way: after difficulty comes ease,
Mhm.
or with the difficulty there is ease. And so I want everybody to think, oh, yeah, well, April Muhammad, she had a tough time, but she was able to gain some mighty prizes from sticking to what she needed to do to get it accomplished. And I want everybody else to do the same. We're all going to have difficulties. We're all going to have trials. We're all going to have hard things that we have to get through, disappointments and hurts, but we can't give up. And I want me to be a reminder of that.
Right, right. April, thank you so much for sharing your story with such honesty and depth. What stands out to me the most is that your journey reminds us that legacy isn't something we wait to leave behind. It's something we build through our choices that we make on a daily basis, especially when those choices are difficult. Your
Beautiful.
story shows that pursuing purpose doesn't require perfect timing, ideal circumstances, a quiet life, or a lot of money. It requires courage, faith, and the willingness to honor what's been placed in your heart. And for those watching, whether you're navigating a major life transition, balancing responsibility with long held dreams, or thinking more intentionally about the future you're creating for your family, I hope this conversation encourages you to see your life as meaningful right where you are. Legacy is not just about what we pass down on paper, it's about the values we live, the resilience we model, and the example we set for the next generation. May we continue to choose lives that reflect our values, not just obligations. And thank you for being here. Do you have any parting words, April?
I just want to say amen because that was a prayer and it was a beautiful one. Thank you, family. Wish me luck as I study for the bar.
Yes, she's studying for the bar for February?
Yes,
For
yes,
February.
February 22nd and 23rd, and I plan to do well, but that is my hope. I'm gonna give it my best shot.
You'll do fine, you'll do fine.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
April.
family. Have a good day.